Hello everyone, so this is my week 9 current event video on the two drug articles that we read, and like the main question of what steps law enforcement can take to develop their confidential informants for drugs, about drugs and stuff like that, and how fire service can kind of play a role in this kind of war on drugs, I guess you can call it. So I'm going to start with the Washington Post article about the corruption in the high levels of the Mexican government. And kind of how it relates, can take it how it relates into like the CI stuff. So kind of when you have that kind of corruption, just think of it at at any level, whether it's the local police level, which they have a lot of that there as well, that like the article mentioned, or all the way up to high federal governments where you have the secretaries of defense and stuff like that are a part of it as well. And you pretty much, when you're on the good side, you're kind of fighting a battle you can't win. And you're just fighting a losing fight. There's really nothing you can do about it. It doesn't matter what information you have. The enemy is always going to have the same information. So that one step ahead that you think you have is really nothing. But kind of goes on to talk about how with the CI stuff and how they aid investigations, and kind of like they have this kind of extra step inside and kind of look inside and how these organizations are run. They're essentially working against the cartels, though, that have confidential informants of their own within the ranks of law enforcement and government. And so you're just pretty much losing to your own strategy, I guess. And it does seem that kind of law enforcement has been able to obtain kind of these warrants that the Justice Department article mentioned, based on kind of law enforcement that are posing as undercovers, I guess, is what they would be. That have been able to like purchase a variety of drugs from people, and those investigations often lead to jail time and stuff like that for those offenders. But to me, when you're kind of like fighting that kind of fight, there's always going to be the other guy that's going to be distributing and selling and stuff like that. Those guys are kind of disposable, I would think, to these major criminal organizations. So if you have that kind of informant on the inside, that's kind of where I think you get that extra critical information that the cartel maybe wouldn't realize that you have. And that kind of gives you the extra step ahead that they would need to kind of get the drugs, that cut off drugs income from the source. Because if you're just cutting off the ends of like the distribution chain like this, there's always just going to be another guy to take his place. So if you can actually get to that source, cutting off those kind of shipments there, I think that's where they would really start to make a big impact when it comes to these large cartels. And then for the second part, how fire service can help. I think fire service is a big piece when it comes to like keeping communities safe, especially nowadays when a lot of them are responding to like drug overdoses and stuff like that, with the toxicity of like the fentanyl and things like that are being included in narcotics and stuff and street drugs. So while they might not be directly involved with preventing the entrance like law enforcement would be, I think they play a huge role in kind of keeping the community safe, because when there are drugs present, because they have to go out and put themselves in harm's way when it comes to responding to overdoses. And especially, like I said, with the toxicity and kind of power of fentanyl and the potency that it has, you've heard of people like they'll almost overdose by just essentially touching it. They might be trying to help somebody else who's overdosing. It gets on their skin, and they're going like they're overdosing at the same time. So I think it's kind of like that's the big piece that fire can play. So while it's not directly involved with the war on drugs, I think the aspect of keeping the community safe is their biggest piece of the puzzle, and kind of how they're important for this. But that's all I have. Thanks.